right, hello and welcome to Tarabala 101, where we will explain the basics of what Tarabala is. Tarabala is, let's see, why don't we stick to the script? Let's give a safari. Boom. So here, the link to this text is in the description below. I don't know why I always have to say below. All right, so many people, you might not know what Tarabala is. But the word itself, Tara means star, and Bala or Abala means strength. So it's star strength. So what does star strength mean? It's a system of figuring out how one point in the horoscope gets strength from other points, or how any day in your life gets strength from the day that you were born. And this system utilizes the stars, not the signs. So let's talk about that for a second. The idea is you want to find out, let's say you want to know about your moon. Then you want to know how it's getting or not getting strength. So this Tarabala is a way of figuring out what's strengthening the moon and what's not. By which I mean, what other planets? Is the sun strengthening the moon or weakening it? Is Jupiter strengthening the moon or weakening it? And how? In what way is it strengthening and weakening? You can do it for the moon. You can do it for the sun. You can. Is my Mars being strengthened or weakened by my moon? So it has nothing to do with Rashi signs, which makes it very interesting. It's completely self-contained within the nakshatras. You don't need to bring the Rashis into it at all. You can. There's no reason why you can't mix. Like you could say, Jupiter is strengthening my moon and I have Jupiter in Libra. So it must mean knowledge of arts will help my emotions. But you don't have to. You don't have to use the Libra part at all. You can say you have Jupiter in Chitra, strengthening your moon in Rohini. So it can be entirely contained within only the sidereal nakshatra system. It doesn't have to have anything to do with the tropical Rashis, which is something that's kind of appealing and interesting about it and makes it kind of ancient, or at least something that the ancient Vedic people might have used to make sense out of things. Since we know that they didn't use Rashis widely for natal interpretations until after it became popular in other places of the world. Okay, so that makes sense, right? Right. I'm glad you agree. Reviewing that and then moving on to the next. Many people may not even know what a Tarabala even is. Got a question here. Yes, it is indigenous to India, certainly. The word means star strength. It is a system for figuring out how one point in your horoscope gets strength from the other points, or how one day in your life, so I probably need to explain that, gets strength from the other days. So every one of us is born on a particular day. Wow, believe it or not. And that day has a particular nakshatra. It's the nakshatra of the day. The nakshatra the moon was in when the sun rose. And so on any other day, like today, like I'm born on a certain day, I can't remember the nakshatra. Let's just assume that it's Rohini. It will usually be the same nakshatra as your natal moon. So I'm born on the Rohini nakshatra, and let's say today I didn't do any of my homework. Let's say today is, I don't know, some other, let's just say that it's something close so that it's easy to count. Let's say that it's Mrigashirsha. So that means that today's nakshatra is one nakshatra away from the nakshatra I was born on. So based on that information of how far today's nakshatra is from my day, then I can tell how good this particular day is for me, whether it strengthens me or weakens me. So those are the two applications. And it came to my attention yesterday that there's a third application, which is in compatibility. How is my moon related to your moon? Tarabala is also applied to that. Those are the three applications of Tarabala. But what is really the most interesting is how it's applied in a single natal chart. Let's start understanding Tarabala. The first thing that we need to do to learn how to use Tarabala is learn what the Tarabalas are. There's 9 Tarabalas. There's 9 different strength conditions. 9 ways that the stars give strength or take away strength. And here's a list of the 9. And getting the right English translation is very important. Because even if it's in Sanskrit, you require anuvad, which is the explanation of the meaning and the context of the word. So pay careful attention both to the Sanskrit and the English translation. I'm not so sure about the translation. I'm working on this. This is a work in progress. My understanding of Tarabala. I'm pretty settled on definitely have the good one for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But 1, 8, and 9. 8 and 9 is pretty good. 1 is a little bit difficult to translate yet. I'm still looking for the exact anuvad for janma. But janma basically means born. So it means sibling-like or co-born together. So that's one type of bala is to be janma, which means to be born together with something. Another thing is called sampat. The second Tarabala is called sampat. Sampat means to come together. Like I mentioned recently in a post that I made, like a text post that I made in YouTube. Sampat is not the same as sampada. Sampada is a word that means wealth. And vipada is a word that means losing wealth. But these words are slightly different. It's sampat and vipat. Pat means to fall. Literally, the literal meaning of pat is to fall, and sampat means to fall together. So sampat means to fall in the same place, to come together. Whereas vipat means to fall apart. So a simple translation for the second and third Tarabala is coming together or falling apart. So there's being born together, then there's coming together, then there's falling apart. Then the fourth one is called kshema. Kshema means staying somewhere, not falling in any direction. It means staying somewhere. And it implies being safe and protected. So you can translate this as and explain this as staying in safety. It's the fourth Tarabala. The fifth one is pratyak. Pratyak, in a sense, means opposite. So it can just mean the opposite of kshema, leaving into danger. And then also the literal meaning of the word pratyak means turning back. So you have co-born, starting together. The first one is starting together. The second one is coming together. The third one is falling apart. The fourth one is staying safe. The second one is leaving the safety. I'm sorry, did I say second? The fifth, pratyak, is leaving the safety. Janma, starting together. Sampat, coming together. Vipat, falling apart. Kshema, staying safe. Staying together, staying safe. Pratyak, leaving. Then the sixth Tarabala, sadhana. Sadhana means progressing. If the word is sadhana and not sadhana, then it means with wealth or gaining wealth. Progressing is pretty close to the same thing, and I'm pretty sure that it's sadhana. You'll know why in a bit, but because these guys get paired together, and naidana, the grammar in naidana matches the grammar in sadhana, so it's probably sadhana, progressing. and Naidana regressing. And then the final two, 8 and 9, are Mitra and Ati Mitra. Sometimes it's called Paramitra. Mitra means to be together, but with friendship, with bond. To be bound together with friendship. And the Ati Mitra means, this is actually this was exciting to figure out what this really means. Ati Mitra basically means stronger friendship. So something like love, bonding in mutual love. And you'll see why I say mutual in a bit. So that is really the 101, or the first lesson for the Tarabala 101, is to know really what the 9 Tarabalas are and what they symbolize. Starting together, Janma, coming together, Sampat, falling apart, moving apart, Vipat, staying in safety, staying as a group, staying together, staying housed and sheltered, Kshema, Pratyak, leaving the shelter, turning away. Sadhana, progressing. Naidana, regressing. So sadhana means it's growing, and Naidana means decaying. And then Mitra, bonding, and Ati Mitra, really tightly bonding. So how do you use these? The nakshatra of any particular point has the first Tarabala, Janma, co-born. And the next nakshatra has the second, coming together, Sampat, etc. The 10th nakshatra from your starting point just restarts the count at 1. So let's say, for example, Kritika. Let's say whatever you have in Kritika, if you have something in Kritika, we'll just use it as an example. If anything else is in Kritika, then it's called Janma Tarabala. It's born together with it. And then the next nakshatra, oh my God. The next nakshatra, I've been talking now for a long time, so I can't, and I didn't bring up, I have a little water, 1 second. So the next nakshatra, Rohini, would be the second Tarabala. You can count it as second, or really the easiest way to count is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But if you want to be more conventional, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Rohini, for something in Kritika, Rohini is the first nakshatra away. And for something in Kritika, Mrigashirsha is the second nakshatra away, so it's the second Tarabala. And for something in Kritika, Ardra is the third. Kritika, Rohini, Mrigashirsha was the fourth, Ardra. Kritika and Kritika, first Janma, first Tarabala. Kritika, Rohini, second one, Sampat. Kritika, Rohini, Mrigashirsha. Kritika and Mrigashirsha's relationship is the third Tarabala, Vipat. Kritika, Rohini, Mrigashirsha, Ardra, that's the fourth Tarabala. Kshema. To stay together. Like that, that's how you count them. Okay? So that's what I mean here. The nakshatra of any particular point has the first Tarabala, co-born Janma. The next nakshatra has the second one, coming together, Sampat. And then what happens when you get up to the 9th one and you get to the 10th one? It's sadhana. When you get up to the 9th one, as far as I know, it's sadhana. The 9th one, then it just restarts. So this causes it to form trines. This is one of the reasons why trines are very important. The nakshatras which are trine to each other have the same Tarabala. Because the 10th nakshatra is about 120 degrees away. So if you're starting at Kritika, you have Kritika, Rohini, Mrigashirsha, Ardra, Punarvasu, Pusha, Aslesha, Magha, Purva, Palguni, right? That would take you through all the 9 Tarabalas. Then what about Uttara Palguni? Uttara Palguni restarts at Janma. So if you have something in Kritika and something in Uttara Palguni, they're co-born. And then again, Uttara Palguni 1, Hasta 2, Chitra 3, Swati 4, Vishaka 5, Anuradha 6, Jyeshtha 7, Mula 8, Purvashada 9. So what about the next Uttarashada? Uttarashada 1. So Kritika, Uttarashada, Uttara Palguni are trines to each other. So they all have the same Tarabala. Get it? I could have given you a graphic for that. Sorry, I didn't. You're asking, Nomadic is asking which direction to count in. You count in the direction of the nakshatras. The nakshatras go in that order, the order that the planets move. Kritika first, Rohini second, that direction. Now, if you look at this list, did you notice anything? Did you notice that there seems to be, there seems to be a pairing, right? There's positive and negative pairing. So for example, Sampat and Vipat coming together, falling apart. Did you notice that? So not all of them, but the ones in the middle, they have this positive negative pairing. So I'll read through it again for you and see if you notice that. Co-born, coming together, falling apart, staying in safety or leaving the safety, turning away, progressing or regressing. So that's sort of interesting. Coming together versus falling apart, staying, Chema versus leaving, and progressing versus regressing. When you use these Tarabalas in electional astrology, it's very simple. Like I said, I'm born on Rohini, so if today's day is Mrigashirsha, then I just know that today's day is Sampat. It's a day which will help things come together. So on this day, I should try to bring people together. I should try to make a team. I should call somebody up to do something. I should ask somebody to do something on this particular day. Not on the next day, because the next day will be Vipat. Vipat, I should get rid of things. I should end when things have come to an end. They should end on that day, etc. So it's simple in that way because it's just one directional. It's from your birth nakshatra to the day's nakshatra, and it's easy. And it's very simple. You basically, any Tarabala that's positive is a good day, and any Tarabala that's negative is a bad day. So what do you mean by the positive ones? Well, definitely Sampat, coming together, Chema, staying in safety, Sadhana, progressing, and then the last two, Mitra and Ati Mitra, friendship and love. Those are the positive ones. Days that are those are good days, and specifically in the type of good day. Like on a Sampat day, it's a good day for making alliances or getting new things, buying stuff. But on a Shema day, it's a good day for not for getting new stuff, just for keeping things strong. Just strengthen the things that you already have on the Shema day. Sadhana day, it's a good day to learn something new. Make progress. Take a step forward in the plan. Mitra, Ati Mitra, good days for friendship and love. So basically, 2, 4, 6, 8 are positive. And 3, 5, 7 are negative. 9 is also positive, and 1 is mixed. Janma is a mixed situation. It's like siblings, co-born. When you have siblings, those are the people that get on your nerves, and you fight with them all the time. But also, those are the people who you do things with, and they help each other. So the Janma day and the Janma Tarabala is like a mixed positive and negative. So we have a question here from Cute Creatures. It's not a question. Okay. So when used in electional astrology, Tarabala is quite straightforward. The negative Tarabalas are not ideal days for most things. The positive ones are. Of course, you can do particular things on that V-putt. There's certain things that are good for a V-putt, but it's not like acquisitional. It's usually dispersive. There's good things on Nidana, when you want to decrease something, lose weight, etc. Fast on a Nidana. When used in natal astrology, so it's pretty simple and straightforward in electional astrology, but in natal astrology, it's way more interesting. The reason is because the Tarabalas will become reciprocal. There's two reasons. One is that the Tarabalas will become reciprocal, and the other is that there's way more Tarabalas because you have 10 points instead of just one. So now what I want to explain is the reciprocal Tarabalas. If you try to use Tarabala in a natal chart, you'll notice something very interesting. So now I can show you this. My moon is in Rohini, for example, and my Saturn is in Kritika. These two nakshatras are right next to each other. So it's easy to use them to illustrate this point. My moon is one nakshatra after Saturn, and therefore Saturn can't be anywhere except one nakshatra behind my moon. So what does that mean? That means that there's automatic pairs between the Tarabalas, between any points, point A and point B. And these are the pairs. I'll put it on the screen, I'll just read it, and then I'll show it to you. Because I did think ahead enough to know that this could be confusing, so that I should show it to you with a graphic. If B is 0 nakshatra from A, then A must be 0 nakshatra from B, right? If 2 points are in the same nakshatra, then they're 0 from each other, right? If B is 1 nakshatra ahead of A, then A must be 1 nakshatra behind B. If B is 2 nakshatra ahead of A must be 2 nakshatra behind B. If B is 3 nakshatra ahead of A must be 3 nakshatra behind B. If B is 4 nakshatra ahead of A must be 4 nakshatra behind B. And you don't go to count 5 because 5 is the same as 2 or 1. Because it starts now getting closer to the other side. So let me explain that, just show that to you. Because this is very simple, really, but people sometimes have blocks. All right, so here you see an example. If the sun is in Purnavasu, if the moon is in Purnavasu and the sun is in Pushya, then the sun is 1 nakshatra forward from the moon, and the moon is 1 nakshatra back from the sun. So the Tarabala of the sun to the moon will be +1, and the Tarabala of the moon to the sun will be -1. But if the moon is in Purnavasu and the sun is in Ashlesha, then the sun is 2 forward from the moon, and the moon is 2 backwards from the sun. So the Tarabala, the way that the sun strengthens the moon will be described by the +2 Tarabala. The way that the moon strengthens the sun will be described by the -2 Tarabala. What's a -2 Tarabala? We just counted 1 to 9. Go to 9 and do -2. So just to finish it up, if the moon is in Ashlesha and the sun is in, if the moon is in Ardra and the sun is in Ashlesha, then the sun is in the 3rd Tarabala for the moon, and the moon is in the -3rd Tarabala for the sun. So this is interesting. You don't get this in electional astrology. 4th, sun, for example, in Mrigashirsha. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. Moon, for example, in Mrigashirsha, sun in Ashlesha. That means the sun is 4 Tarabalas forward from the moon, and the moon is 4 Tarabalas backwards from the sun. So you cannot have the sun be in the 4th Tarabala if the moon is not in the 4th Tarabala back. So therefore, the Tarabalas can be well understood by understanding their reciprocal pairs. And that's what I want to explain to you now. Here's where it gets quite interesting. So if we give the names to this instead of the numbers, it becomes more interesting. Where I say if B is 0 nakshatra from A, A must be 0 from B. If B is 1 ahead of A, A must be 1 behind. So now let's give that the words. First in Sanskrit, if B is Janma to A, then A has to be Janma to B. If B is Sampat to A, then A has to be Atimitra to B. That's the clue of what Atimitra is all about. If B is Vipat to A, then A has to be Mitra to B. If B is Kshema to A, then A has to be Naidana to B. And if B is Pratyak to A must be Sadhana to B. Now, since most of you aren't familiar with Sanskrit terms, put it in English and all of a sudden it was going to light up and make a lot of sense. Say this in English. If B was born with A, then obviously A was born with B. If B comes together with A, then A falls in love with B. That's Sampat Atimitra. If B wants to separate from A, that's Vipat, then A tries to hold on to the relationship with B. That's Mitra. That's the difference between Mitra and Atimitra. Atimitra is a reciprocal bond. Mitra is a one-way bond. So in the first Tarabala, not the 0 Tarabala, the born, the first real Tarabala, if B comes together with A falls in love with B. Then if B decides he wants to leave A, then A won't want to let B go. A will hold on to it. This is interesting. If B is Sampat to A, then A will Atimitra B, fall in love with it. But then if B wants to Vipat, wants to go away from A, then A will Mitra towards it, hold on to it, try to stay close to it. So you'll see that dynamic in your chart. One planet trying to hold on to some other planet. Don't forget, planets symbolize things. So that's symbolizing your knowledge trying to hold on to your romance. But the romance trying to leave the knowledge. It's like Venus and Jupiter being in this Vipat Mitra. And the third Tarabala, if B stays safe and secure with A, then A is weakened and burdened by B. This is the very interesting Kshema-Naidana relationship. It cannot be any other way. One planet cannot be Kshema to another without vice versa being Naidana. So you have to understand it. If B is safe and secure, then A has to give up everything to take care of that planet. So B's safety and security here comes at the expense. So you see how these pairs are different. This will be the next thing that we talk about. Certain pairs are reciprocal, but other pairs are opposite, and the energy flows from one planet to another. In the Vipat Mitra thing, the Mitra planet's energy is flowing towards the Vipat. The Vipat's planet's energy is moving away from the Mitra planet. In Kshema Naidana, that Kshema planet is being protected. It's kind of being pampered. But the planet doing the pampering is losing its resources by virtue of doing the pampering. And then Pratyak Sadhana. When B is Pratyak, it means it turns away. It behaves undesirably. It doesn't cooperate. Pratyak means not to cooperate. If B behaves undesirably, then Sadhana. A tries to discipline it and improve it. This is really the key. I think I'm going to write this down now. Yeah, this is the true key. Very little known, I would almost venture to say a secret, to understanding and using Tarabala really brilliantly for natal astrology. When you plug in, instead of A and B, when you plug in the actual planets from your chart, if you have your background knowledge down about what those planets symbolize, then it's going to be a lot of extremely useful information at almost as much as you can get from houses and signs. And then if you plug in the symbolism of the nakshatras those planets are in, and you can even plug in the houses and signs that they're in if you wish. Let me see if there's any questions that I should address. Nomadic, if the self point in the chart the moon nakshatra or the ascendant nakshatra, you have to just know what the things. The moon will represent your emotions, your mind, your subjectivity, your feelings, your desires. And the ascendant represents your body, your physicality, your reality, your practicality. Bardo says, so it's heart over mind and all kinds of dynamics if we keep planets in mind. Bardo, I cannot understand what you're saying. I don't understand. Okay. Reciprocal Tarabala types. Let's further categorize these. This is really where it's at, though. This bit right here that's on the screen right now, this is where it's at. Work with this, and you'll have a feast from your chart. Now, a little bit more about these Tarabala types. You may notice that 2 of the 5 reciprocal Tarabalas are basically mutual. And the other 3 are basically opposite. You may have noticed that. Mutual means that the way A feels about B is exactly the same or very similar to how B feels about A. But opposite means that the way A feels about B is basically the opposite of how B feels about A. So Janma obviously is mutual. If A is Janma to B, then B is Janma to A. Obviously that's the same thing. But Sampad Ati Mitra is the other mutual one. Because coming together and being in love are basically both positive joining feelings. The rest of the other 3 couplets, they're opposites. And it seems, when you just look at it, it seems a little bit odd. If this planet, is this planet good or bad? I don't understand. It has a positive Tarabala from that planet, but that means that it's giving a negative Tarabala to that other planet. That's life. That's not all of life. Two of the 5 pairs are mutual, but 3 of the 5 pairs are not mutual. Where most of life is where something is good in one direction and not in the other. By taking energy here, you deplete energy from there. So it seems odd that you have these enforced opposites in the Tarabala, but it's extremely important. And it's by understanding those opposites, that's the way that you get super good interpretations out of the Tarabala system, which are summarized here in this list. Is the basic way of doing it. The Vipat Mitra relationship has B wanting to get away from A, Vipat, and A responding by trying to hold on and strengthen the bonded relationship. The Kshema Nidana relationship has B feeling safe and stable and secure, but at the expense of A. A is drained and weakened by supporting B, and Pratyak Sadhana has B behaving undesirably towards A, but A trying to discipline it and improve it. So there's a difference between the Kshema and the Pratyak Tarabala, is that the Kshema planet is being pampered and kind of being allowed to do whatever it wants. That causes the pampering planet to be drained, Naidana. In the other case, this planet is not being pampered. It's Pratyak. It's misbehaving, but it is not going to be accepted. The misbehavior is not accepted, or the lack of participation is not accepted. In Kshema, it's accepted, it's tolerated. In Pratyak, it's not tolerated. Instead, the other planet will perform sadhana on it, which means it will make it improve, it will discipline it. So if you have the moon sadhana to Saturn, that means that Saturn is pratyak to your moon. So that means that Saturn symbolisms will work against your moon symbolisms, but the moon symbolisms will discipline your Saturn symbolisms. Saturn symbolisms are things like negativity, minimalism, reduction, and moon symbolisms are things like emotion, desire, etc. So negativity will be working against your emotions, but your emotions will be able to discipline your negativity and rein it in and control it and make it more productive. I hope that you think this is as good as I do. I think what I want to end up with is explaining how these Tarabalas reflect basic human relationship types. Stephanie asked, why can trines be wasteful and squares can create growth? I think you've been overexposed to overly positive people. You get the people, the apologet, what do they call it? Apologistas. The apologistas for Saturn, the apologistas for squares, etc. Trines are good, squares are difficult. You don't need to call on the PC apologista brigade to explain that, because when you do, you get confused about astrology. Oh, you're saying this is why? Why would trines be wasteful? Trines are actually planets which are in trine will have. Let me think about what you're saying. I'm going to think about what you said. So you're saying the square is related to sadhana? Thank you. I'll check that out. Now let's look at this. Archetype human relationships. I don't think trines are wasteful, nor do I think squares. I see you using the word can. Okay. Archetype human relationships. Janma is like a sibling relationship. So when you have the planets that are in Janma, conceive of them that way and it will help you understand. Sampat Atimitra is a lot like a couple falling in love. When you have planets in Sampat Atimitra, think of these planets as like a newly matched couple. Vipat Mitra is a couple surviving or trying to survive a breakup. Because you have one planet trying to leave, but the other planet trying to hold. And it can also be seen as a smitten person chasing someone who's uninterested or is leading them on. That's the kind of relationship that will explain, that will give the interpretation for those two planets. Somebody teasing somebody and leading them on. Somebody just being uninterested but yet being pursued by the stalker. Or a couple that's trying not to break up but is having difficulties. Then Kshema Naidana is a dysfunctional relationship, or it's an unbalanced relationship. So it's like a relationship where somebody prospers at somebody else's expense. There is a healthy sense of Kshema Naidana, which is parent-child, where the parent is Naidana. They sacrifice everything, but they like that. That's their duty. That's supposed to be that way. In an unhealthy sense, it's similar to a parasitic relationship. Thank you, cute. In an unhealthy sense, it's similar to a parasitic relationship where one friend or partner leeches or exploits the relationships of the other. That's how you understand the planets that are Kshema Naidana to each other. Pratyak Sadhana is like mentoring relationship. Similar to when a parent tries to discipline or correct a child who continuously behaves poorly, or a teacher correcting a student who persistently fails to grasp a concept. So this is the breakthrough on Tarabala and how to apply it to natal charts and get really fantastic interpretations. I hope you enjoyed it. You'll be hearing more about this from me because this is my new passion. I'm working on this. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, Nomadic asks, can you please explain more on the couple falling in love? Sampat Atimitra. That's with the situation where they're right next to each other, aren't they? Let me show you Sampat Atimitra. Sampat Atimitra is this. So you can see even in the sky it looks romantic. In this case, the sun is Sampat and the moon is Atimitra. The sun is Sampat to the moon and the moon is Atimitra to the sun. Remember, the basis of Tarabala is how does one point strengthen another point. So this is like a couple falling in love. Sampat means falling together and Atimitra means love. So this is the people who have come together and they like it and they bond together. Like these two planets, that's what I mean. Maybe we should do this for the others. This is the couple that is dealing with separation. One planet is getting separated from the other. So in this case, the sun is Vipat to the moon, but the moon is Mitra to the sun. So the moon would still be trying to hold on to the sun here, but the sun would be leading the moon on or pulling it away. This is the next one, Kshema Naidana. And here the sun is Kshema to the moon and the moon is Naidana to the sun. Oh, I'm getting confused. It's new, we have to work on this. And my nose is not helping me think clearly right now. One, two, three. The sun is Kshema to the moon. So the sun is tolerating. Yes, that's right. So the energy is flowing kind of this way. Oh, you can't see my cursor. The energy is flowing from the sun to the moon. The sun is tolerating the moon. Naidana, the moon is draining the sun. That's that dysfunctional one-sided relationship. And then this is the student-y relationship. It's not quite as square, is it? So this one, first one is Janma, second Ardra, Sampat, Purnavarsa, Vipat, Pushya, Kshema, Aslesha, Pratyak. So the sun is being unruly or pratyak to the moon, but the moon is being sadhana. You could count all the way around and you'll find out that it's sadhana, or you could just say, if it's here, it's Janma. If the moon were in Ashlesh, then it would be Janma with the sun. If it's in Pusha, then it would be Atimitra. If it's in Punarvas, it would be Mitra. If it's in Ardra, it would be the one before Mitra, which is Naidana. And if it's in Mrigashirsha, which is where it is, it's the one before Naidana, which is Sadhana. That's why it's just easier to subtract. So this is an example of that student-teacher relationship, where the moon is trying to correct the sun. Joma Rincon asks, Vic, can this teaching be used between any 2 points in a natal chart, or do they have to be interacting with each other? It can be used with any 2 natal points. They all interact with each other via this bala. Okie dokie, smokies. I will now go and clear my nose. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nomadic.